There we
So
go. Cool, cool. Well, welcome in everybody. Happy Monday. Whether you're in snowy, I guess Northeast and snowy Chicago, I think they got a bunch of snow show. Did you see in Michigan the big old flood that happened because of a water main break? A 54-inch main broke up there. That's a lot
man,
of water. So there there's like I think it was Detroit. They had snow and ice and it was all freezing. So and they got lots of snow, lots of cold coming. So, but anyways, I know it's nice and warm down there, Mark. I don't want to hear it.
it's beautiful. I'm actually, can you see? I'm in a short sleeve. Well, it looks like Dennis is too. But yeah,
Arizona, 70 degrees.
yep.
70 degrees. Yep, I understand. I understand. I did see you guys got some rain though from that storm that we had. So we're got Southern Cali 68. We got Tommy down there. Whatever. All right, whatever. I'm okay, guys. I see how it is. Got all the Florida people. I know you got baseball season starting too, so it is what it is. Mark, how are you doing? Good?
Yeah, I'm doing well. A little frustrated with technology today, but I'm doing really well. So I'm excited. There's a lot happening in the last 30 days, just in general, politics and then the real estate market and the rates and we're gonna have another for in the seller financing space. I love these type of market conditions. When I hate to say it, but when homes aren't moving, I love it. That's when there's great opportunities for buying. A lot of great buying opportunities.
Lots of great buying opportunities. Um, when so you're saying that's great buying opportunity, right? Which type of properties are the best buying opportunity right now?
I, all real estate, but for me, I like nice homes in nice neighborhoods, like three bedrooms, two baths, near a nice school district. The reason why is because when I sell my properties, I like to usually sell them on a lease option, also known as rent to own. And I like to find families that have young children and they don't want to move outside the area. They want to stay in the area. They want to raise their children. So those are the ones I target. And plus, I like to target ones that have been sitting on the market for a minimum of 3 months because the sellers are a lot more motivated. And and it doesn't really matter the age, long as the property is in good condition. If it does need a lot of work, then that's another type of strategy that would go down, a handyman special, if you will. It's a different type of a buyer, but they're still good buyers. You can definitely still do stuff with them.
Okay, that's interesting. Um,
Mhm.
so you're looking for three bedroom, two bath in a nice area that doesn't need a bunch of work, right? So I know
That's yeah,
some investing methods look for properties that are distressed that need a bunch of work, you know.
correct.
So you're with the seller financing, you're not looking for something that needs a ton of work, almost move in ready, right?
Those are the better ones that work well for what my strategy is, but you still can do those through a seller financing strategy. You're just you're being a lot more creative going down that path and depending on the condition because when I do those type of deals, I negotiate with a seller no down whatsoever. And oftentimes I try to negotiate a couple months with no payments because I tell the seller, hey, we're getting our property ready. You want us to take all the capital, put into the asset to fix it up. So that's why I look for very low down payments. And even no payments for a couple months if you can do that. It all depends on the situation. If there's an existing mortgage in place, then sometimes you have to go ahead and make that mortgage payment on behalf of the seller. So that it depends. It's a case by case when you underwrite it and go through it. But then you look at it as a handyman special. That's how I sell it as. So let's say, for example, a property needs $40,000 worth of work. Okay. And I
Mhm.
don't want to put $40,000 worth of work. And I negotiate a really down low payment with a seller, zero, sometimes 2 months of no payments. It's a case by case. And then I tell my buyers normally, hey, Mr. Buyer, I'm looking for about 60, $70,000 down. But if you're handy, Instead of that, I'll take $15,000 down, and then you can use the remaining money to put into the property. Because for me, it's going to cost me probably 50, 60,000 to fix it up. But for you, you might be able to get this done for about 30 to $40,000. So you can still make the same amount of money. This is what blows me away. People do wholesaling, right? You're only making like a $10,000 wholesale fee, but if you still structure it this way and stay in the middle, you can make that money up front like your normal wholesale fee. You get monthly cash flow, and then you make money at the back end when you sell it. So an average deal, when you structure it the right way and you're staying in a deal, you're making anywhere between 75,000 to about $200,000 on an average deal over 5 years, and you're making money through the process. You make today money, you make monthly cash flow, passive income, and you make tomorrow money. That's what we normally call it in the industry.
Tomorrow money. I like it.
That's exactly. Yeah.
I like it.
That's kind of how we look at it. And because well, think about it. If you're building your pipeline up, and all you need to do is like 3 to 5 deals a year. And let's say your exit, you're trying to get your capital out in like year 5 or 7, and you do 3 or 5 deals and you're making monthly cash flow coming in. When those deals come due in 4 or 5 years, you're going to be getting all that back end money. And that back end money is usually between 75,000 to $150,000, roughly. Say an average is about 100. So think about it. If you have 3 or 5 deals every year, once you build up your pipeline, you're making an extra $300,000 to $500,000 per year in the back end, on top of your monthly passive income on your other deals that you have, and also new deals that you're bringing into the deal and making money on the upfront.
Okay. Now, real
All right.
quick, I have a question for everybody. Has anybody done a seller financing deal yet? If you have, put a yes in the chat. If you haven't, put a no in the chat. Whether you're watching on Facebook, this might be a replay. If you're watching on Facebook, just go ahead and drop yes or no. We want to know. You haven't yet. All right. Yes, no. Be awesome. Just let us know. No, yes. We got some yeses, nos. Awesome. Awesome. Now, for the people that said yes, how many have you done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 100. I know Mark's done like 1,000. So,
Couple thousand.
couple thousand. So, one hybrid. Okay. Okay. Awesome. All right. Jasmine says no and wants to ASAP. Now, I have a question mark. When it comes to money, you can do this with $0 down, but should you have money reserved just in case?
You should. But if you do it the right way and you get a large enough deposit from your end buyer, you can take some of that, and you absolutely want to do this. You take some of that capital, like about 3 to 4 months, and you put it into reserves. So if that end buyer stops paying, you have that capital to step up to the plate and make those payments. And then you also want to make sure, say for your payments always due on the first for the lender, you always want your payment going out around the 20th or the 25th directly to the lender. So the seller's payment is always being done on time. And then typically your buyer's payment usually comes in um, a week or two later, because when you're using a loan, and this is where a lot of people mess up, and I've seen investors that are inexperienced that try doing this stuff on their own with no guidance. They set it up, and they don't realize that a loan servicing company, when they make the payments, most loan serving companies will hold that payment for 2 weeks. I had somebody that reached out to me this past summer that was they went and purchased a deal from a sub-2 student, and they wrapped it, and the end buyer put $50,000 down. And they put $50,000 down, and the buyer made his first payment on the 5th, then the second payment on the 9th, and then May, this is what came. So when they made May's payment, it was May 18th. And what they did is they didn't have any money in reserves. They just took out 50,000. So when the money went to the servicer dispersed it, paid the first mortgage and everything. Well, when they received that payment May 18th and they hold it for 2 weeks, now they're into June. And what they did is they used what's called a performance deed. I never ever recommend a performance deed. Matt, do you know what a performance deed is?
I don't.
Okay.
What is a performance
Yep.
deed?
No problem. So what a performance deed is, does anybody here know what a performance deed is?
Yes.
What's that?
That's
Yes.
because Dennis is taking
Dennis, do you
the
know what a
some of your
performance deed
tasks.
is?
Yeah, I believe I read
I
it
bet
in
it's
your
because
book.
Dennis is taking some of your.
Go ahead. Why don't you explain what a performance deed is?
If the let's say we get into this contract and the buyer doesn't pay like they're supposed to, and I think it's 30 or 60 days, that automatically goes back to ownership to the original seller.
Correct. It all depends on what they put it in. Well, these guys did a 30-day performance deed. Never, ever, ever do a performance deed. I can tell you some stories, but what they did is they did a performance deed. I have a deal that it's portfolio to single family. Okay. Any Well, actually, we'll come to your question in a second. So what happened was they did a performance deed and now they're late. And then the seller wanted the property back because she got whatever her situation was. And if she didn't get it back, she was gonna sue them for $130,000. That's what was happening there. And then what was the next step is they're also going to get sued by their end buyer because that end buyer put $50,000 down. So that's why you always want to make sure your payment goes out, even if you didn't receive your payment for a buyer and you just had that reserves. I got a call. They wanted some help. They needed some guidance what to do because they were getting sued. And this investor had 7 properties in one LLC. And the investor looked at it, the attorney looked it up and said, oh, this is an easy shakedown. This guy's got a lot of assets with equity. So that's another whole issue in hand. So the whole thing kind of got screwed up. So I just told them what they should do. They were cash flowing $1,200 a month. Just give the deal directly to the seller. They lost a lot of money on it, but at least they weren't going to get sued for $130,000. So you never ever want to use a performance deed for that reason. And I actually had a deal myself. I did about 12 years ago, and back then a lot of the lenders didn't have portals to make payments. They didn't have the online portal, so they were sending the statement directly to the seller instead of us, and somehow and we just sent it an auto pay, and I paid down this mortgage 7 years, and we send the payments. It was consistent. Well, what happened was we never got notified that the loan got transferred or sold to another company. So the first payment, the old lender forwarded it, and then the last 2 payments, they just held the checks and didn't do anything. So now we're 2 months behind on the mortgage. And if I had a performance deed, my 7 years of paying that down, I would have been screwed. So we finally got it worked out. We never got noticed. The seller never got a notice because he moved or whatever, and the notice got misplaced. So then we had to help him out with his credit because we reached out with our bank and showed, look, our payments went out. They didn't cash it. So you never know what comes up. So never do a performance deed. Just go through a regular mortgage process. So yeah. So back to your question, Matt. Hopefully that answered. You should have some capital, but if you don't, take some reserves or bring a capital partner in. But there's so many different ways of structuring it. We don't really need a capital partner, but it's a good idea. Or make sure you have access to some capital if something happens.
Okay.
Hey, Mark,
Awesome.
quick question if you don't mind.
Hold on,
Um,
Dennis. 1 second. Hold on
yeah.
1 second. All right, guys. So, real quick, before Dennis asks his question, this is a time for you guys to ask questions and learn. So, please feel free to drop a question in the chat or go ahead and raise your hand over on Zoom and we can get to you. All right. Go ahead, Dennis. Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question. I've been kind of tinkering with this triplet deal over in the Ohio region, and owner and I are going back and forth, back and forth. And would you ever consider helping a seller? This guy is a novice investor. He's first 3 properties, and he's in a tough spot. Would you ever consider helping that guy or girl wholesale his properties for a fee, and what kind of fee would you take?
Why wouldn't you want to buy it?
He is resistant to our process because we're not the actual end buyer. When I did the review of the letter
You
of
are the
intent,
buyer. You are the buyer.
I
With
may have.
him, you are the buyer. So you're not communicating it correctly to the seller or
Okay.
because you are the buyer. That contract is with you, and it doesn't matter if you buy it and you put a tenant in there. It does not matter. So you got to work on how you're conveying that because I'm upfront how I'm telling them, but that contract is with you and them. So if anything happens, and my buyer stops paying, it doesn't matter. I'm keep making that payment to you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, and I think he got hung up on the part that I wasn't going to live in the place, and he really hung on that topic for a while.
Why is he selling?
He's in a pinch. He got too many deals going on at a time, and I was like, "Yeah, so I can help you with this. We can make this work." But he's still hanging on to the end that I'm not going to be living there. That's what he's hanging on.
What's that matter? That's what I say. What would that matter to you? As long as you're getting your payments and you're getting out of this situation. So I would just follow up with them because as he feels the pain a little bit more,
Okay.
and remember, 70% of my deals come from my offers that I usually pitch. They don't like it. They try doing something else. And I call it the boomerang. You throw it away and the best ones come back to you.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Matt, I
Yep.
think we have some
Yep.
questions.
I was muted. Sorry. All
No
right, we
problem.
got some more questions over here. So, Patrick has a portfolio of two single family homes. How should he take it to the closing table since it's a portfolio?
So two portfolio homes. Hey,
No,
Patrick, are you on?
it's a
Is that Patrick hey, Patrick, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So it's the seller. He's actually seller financing us one senior assisted living home already. Um, and then he's got these two single families. Eventually, he's going to liquidate his whole portfolio. He's got 50 properties that he wants to offload. But these two particular are in the same community. It is an HOA, unfortunately. Um, but he is looking to get 240 for the portfolio for the both houses are 3 bed, 3 bath, about quarter of an acre. It's a nice HOA, honestly. It's worth the money for the HOA. Um, the they do need work because they did have tenants in them. One of them is in the process of going through eviction. So, like I said, they do need work, but they're livable. Um, and the ARV on both properties is about 260 each, but he's looking for 240 for the portfolio and just walk away from it is what he's looking for.
So one of the things that a lot of, no offense, wholesalers, they're used to the fix and flip and they use the ARV model. When it comes to seller financing, ARV is out the door because we want to deal with the as is price. What is the property? So you can compare apples to apples. The way you're doing it, you're comparing apples to oranges because you're buying the property at the as is price. If they try selling out in the market, do you know what the as is price on those are? If he's asking
Oh yes,
240?
yeah, absolutely. There, so both properties for 120 as is relatively decent. Yes.
240,
So
you're
each
saying?
house would be about 120.
Oh,
So
120. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, and all right, so he's right in line where the properties are. So what's your question again? How you want to take it down or
I guess the best way to take it down, honestly, he's kind of adamant that he wants that 240 up front. Just do it as a cash purchase or take out a loan for it, a fix and flip loan or whatever it may be, a fix and hold loan, DSCR or whatever it may be. But like I mentioned, he's got 50 other properties. He sold us the one senior living. So he's not opposed. He's familiar with seller financing. It's just a matter of getting them to accept on these particular properties.
what's he planning
He
on
was
doing with
talking
the
about
capital?
wanting.
Do you have an idea what he wants to do with the capital?
He wants to. He does want to reinvest it. He did not mention where, and he did not mention how much. He just said that he wants to reinvest it. And he likes his mailbox money. He just wants to be able to. He's 68 years old and just wants to be able to enjoy his time with his wife.
Well, the
So
mailbox money is perfect for seller financing. He's consistent getting that cash flow coming in. And then what a lot of times I do is I provide an amortization schedule, but this guy knows what he's doing anyways. But I do an amortization schedule and I show them how much money he's going to make over 10 years when he becomes the bank. Does
okay,
that make sense? Yeah. But I
yes.
mean, if he's not Do you live close to this guy or not really?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Have you sat down and talked to him and met him face to face?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And how'd that conversation go?
It's pretty decent rapport, honestly. Like I said, he's seller financing the senior assisted living to us.
Okay.
Um, so we have a good rapport on that one. And then, like I said, he's got those 50 properties total. And eventually, he's got some land deals involved with that as far as the 50 properties are concerned. So, I kind of told him, hey, you know what? I'll buy the whole portfolio eventually from you, so we can make anything work. If this is how you want to operate, we can make anything work. Um, I just couldn't get him off. He was so steadfast about getting that 120 per house and 240 total up front. I was like, there's got to be a better way to structure this for seller fi.
I would just offer him a seller financing and just give him an offer like, hey, here's my offer. You know, if it's as you know, if it's a cash, is that, I need the price to come down so I can make some money in it as an investor. And he should respect that.
Okay.
That's how I would. But the key to it, like, let's back up a little bit. How well do you know him? Do you know his family? Do you know his children? How well do you know him?
I just know him through basically the business. He's got multiple ventures going on. He owns a limo company, and then he owns we'll call it a handyman service, and then he has
Right.
these rental portfolios. So he's
How
a
well do,
jack of all trades, master of none.
okay, how well does he know you and your family?
He does not actually.
Okay. So when it comes to seller financing, and this is where most people they go wrong, or they don't go wrong. They're always about the numbers and sticking to business. When you're doing seller financing, you have to think of it like a marriage. You're in a long-term contract with these people, 5, 7, 10, 30 years. So for them to do those type of deals, you have to think of it like you're dating your spouse. The first time you're going out on a date, you got to get to know each other. So 80% of my phone call or 80% of my conversation with them is getting to know each other because they're going to do business with you on a seller financing because they like you. That's really what it comes down to. And they want to be confident. So they're interviewing you to make sure you're going to take care of the property, and then you're going to interview them to make sure they're not a crazy seller because we've had those. So you really need to build that rapport with them. And they're going to end up doing that type of seller financing deal with you because they like you. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
All right. But that's how and again, I would just present my offer, what works for me, and then just follow up. That's all you can do. Again, 70% of my deals come from just like that. And I put them on my follow up 45 to 60 days later. Hey, did you sell the property? It's the boomerang. Throw it away and they come back. The more offers you make, the more they'll come back. And that's where I get 70% of my deals.
Okay. Cool.
All right. But I would make sure if you do the deals, I would separate the two so you could sell them off separately.
Okay. Yes. Very true.
Yep. You can still do a portfolio with him. Like I have a deal. I have a 9 unit, a duplex, a single family, and another duplex all in a portfolio. But when I did the mortgages and deeds, they're all separate, so I could sell them off. But at closing, it still was a portfolio. But I had separate HUDs and separate notes and deeds and all that stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
And the title company, the attorney originally had it all lumped into one, but we wanted to separate them off so we could sell one because I did end up selling one on a wrap. So the people living in it wanted it before. It was one of the duplexes. So we bought it for 45 and I turned around and sold it for 105 immediately, like not even a month later
Okay.
to the people in the property. So I'm the bank and we wrapped it with that 45 in place from the existing seller. So, all right, cool.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, Jasmine, I have a question. Are you able to unmute your mic and have a conversation about your questions? Yes, no, maybe so. I know I kind of threw that at you, but it'd be much easier for you to go back and forth with Mark on your questions. I know you have a few of them here. Um, I'll go ahead and have you
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, I do have a number of questions after listening. The first one, how do you pitch to a seller when you're going through an agent when it's a property on the market? And what is your pitch?
Sure. Um, I usually tell the agent, hey, do you mind if we all jump on a phone call? Hey, this is, I'm offering a seller financing. It's like a marriage. Yes, there is people that do get married to a spouse, fixed marriages, but in our country, we don't do that. But there is countries like that. But I say, hey, do you mind if we all jump on a phone call? I have some few questions. I want to get to know each other. I want her to get to know the seller to get to know me, you, and let's all just jump on a phone call together. And if you see how I'm doing the strategy, or you see how I'm doing it, we can work together and we can end up doing more business together as a partner, like almost not a partner, but you can go out there and bring me more deals.
Mm.
I did 18 deals one year with one agent that just kept feeding me deals. They knew my buybacks. They knew. So I kind of trained them what I'm looking for, and I make them my bird dogs, if you will. So I love realtors that are new in the business, or I love realtors that are real estate agents. I'm sorry, leasing agents. And I like this question. I'm looking for a property that I can do a rent to own. I want to rent it for a few years, close out, and take care of the maintenance repairs. I love that question because if they say yes, then I know they're open to some type of seller financing term structure. So that's kind of those type of, and I let them go out and try to find deals for me. But then I just try to get them on the phone because a lot of times the realtors are like, oh, just send me an offer. And then I just kind of keep an eye on it. And if it depends on the realtor. Some realtors will do it, and some realtors are just lazy and just want that old school. But those guys are starving and they had to get 9 to 5 jobs. So some realtors are a little bit more hungry, so they're open to it. And just build a rapport with, just like I said with the seller, build a rapport with a realtor because that's
Mhm.
where you really want to get them on the phone.
Okay, so a good realtor that's the right pitch should be able to access the seller directly and not just the seller's agent.
They should be able to talk to their seller's agent and convince the seller agent, hey, let's jump on a phone call. This is what we want to do is we want to have like structured seller financing, but we want to make sure that we want to interview the seller to make sure they're not a crazy seller, and I'm sure they want to interview me to make sure I'm going to take care of the property.
Okay, so all four on the phone.
Exactly. So they
Gotcha.
feel because then otherwise they may get like, oh no, I want to control it. I want to get it cut out of the deal. So it's a psychological issue with the realtors.
Okay, so look for newer realtors that are more hungry.
Yep. Just find a bunch of them and make them your bird dog and let them go out there and find you deals for you.
Okay. Will this also work for a primary residence?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
Is this for
And
yourself or you for an
yeah,
end buyer? Okay.
for
Yeah.
myself, the first one, yeah. And then with the
Yep.
70% boomerang that you mentioned, do they come back on their own or do you reach out to them again in a few months?
I
And
usually reach out. It happens both ways, but majority of the time I have a good follow-up system. Every 45 to 60 days, just send them a, hey, Tex, hey, this is Mark. Um, you know, hey, Jay, this is Mark, just following up. Did you ever sell that property? No. Oh, what's going on? Why haven't you sold it yet? You know, kind of bringing the pain out a little bit, asking them some questions. What's going on? Why isn't it selling? Is there, is there an issue with the property? Is there an issue with the house? You're kind of putting them on a little bit of defense, a little bit like, hey, I don't know why, that type of thing. Kind of like, hey, pouring the salt on the wound, and then you're coming in with a band-aid.
right. Okay. So you got the seller's number in that first introduction with the agents that we just spoke of.
Well, the agents are going to be setting it up. Typically, how I love finding my deals are I go through for sale by owners, or I go on lease
Uh,
rentals, and my VAs reach out to them and send them a message. That's how I get a lot of my deals. And then I have bird dogs like trashmen. They know the neighborhood. They know what homes are moving. They're sitting empty. Landscapers, snowplow movers, Uber drivers, UPS. The list goes on and on.
okay. So you do a lot off market, it sounds like.
Yep,
Yeah.
a lot. Yep, and I do on market too. Where I get my best deals are hospice nurses. That's where I get my home run deals.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at a bunch that I really like, but they are all on Zillow. I found them. So I'm just wondering what the likelihood is of being able to reach the seller and get their number, to build rapport.
You probably don't want to bypass the realtor if there's a, if there's already a realtor involved. Work with the realtor first, because
Hmm.
again, the realtor, if it goes well, you guys can kind of end up doing some business together.
Hmm.
Or look for listings getting ready to expire, but also for sale by owner. The rentals, I love the rental sections because people were trying to sell it and they couldn't sell it, so they have to list it with a leasing agent.
Okay. Good tip. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think that's it for now.
Okay, pleasure meeting you.
You too?
And Dave, we're going to stick to, like, is the business part of the building? We want to try to stick to real estate only when it comes to these calls, when it comes to seller financing, um, deals in general. So, I guess, yeah, he's typed it where that sounds good. All right, cool. Um, Sweet. So when it comes to you were talking about mobile parks, mobile home parks. What
Yes.
are you looking for when it comes to a mobile home park?
I'm looking for a minimum of 70 pads plus. Um, or they could be less than that, but within an hour from each other, so I can have one property manager kind of controlling it all. That's kind of what I look for. Um, and then the condition, I look at the population. I look at population no matter where. If it's residential, everything, I don't like anything below 20. I will possibly look at 15,000, depending on how far the area is and if there's a lot of listings. Um, so that's kind of what I look at in the mobile home parks. So the mobile home parks, yes, you can do some seller financing, and I do institutional. That's where I'll borrow money. On residential, I haven't been to a bank, and the last time I went to a bank was this property here that I bought on a creative deal. But other than that, all my residential stuff, I haven't had my credit pulled. I haven't had um, use the bank institution. It's easier because I can put less capital down to zero capital down. Like I mentioned earlier, I love buying properties through seller financing, negotiate a really low down payment as low as possible with the seller and whatever the entry fee is. And then I like to use my end buyer's capital to buy that property and give myself a nice long inspection period to be able to go out there. And again, I tell my people what I'm doing, and I'm sure Dennis, that's what he did on that particular deal. You just I go into him and I tell him everything. Hey, I'm buying a property. This is between you and I, my contract. And what I tend to do is I like to put a nice family in my property that eventually become homeowners. And what happens is once you've been making payments, um, once you've been making payments on a property for 2 to 3 years, it's much easier for them to get the financing because they also establish a payment history. And it usually takes anywhere between 18 to 30 months for them to get their credit in line so they can go ahead and get the financing. And usually I want them to try to pay it off around 5 to 7 years because I want to take my capital out of it at that time and redeploy it into another asset. Because when you're doing it through a seller financing or lease option, the first 5 to 10 years, a lot of that principal is not being paid down. It's all interest. It's all profit coming into your profit into your bank. That's why banks love lending money.
No,
So
that makes sense. Makes sense. Now, when it comes to the mobile home parks, are you looking for the properties, the mobile homes to be owned by the person renting the pad, or is it, are you owning the buildings, or?
I don't really want to because I want them to be responsible for the maintenance and repairs. I want to with the dirt. Like we purchased one in South Carolina. It was 118 pads and 58 of them were park owned home. And what we did is we sold them on rent to own or lease options or an agreement for deed to majority. I would say probably about 70% of the people wanted them, and the ones that didn't want, we just when their lease is up, we just had them move out because we don't want to. And what happened, that was the value I'd play because 70% of their expenses was going to repairs and maintenance on the mobile home, and we don't want to be responsible for it. So we have more capital, more profit coming into us. I just want to rent the dirt.
Okay, okay, makes sense. Now, when it comes to a beginner, someone starting out, should they start looking at multifamily or anything like that, or should they start simple? Start with a
Yes.
single family home.
Yeah, I would recommend start with a single family home, do a few deals, understand the process, understand how to work with title companies, understand how to work with realtors, attorneys, understanding the whole entire process and what to look for on your documents and learn. It's easier to learn from mistakes on a single family home versus a larger multiple because it's going to cost you more. If you make a costly mistake, you didn't do an inspection properly, or something got missed, your repair cost could cost a lot more money versus on a residential. So and it's easier, and that's kind of what I teach people first. Learn on a residential, learn strategies because once you understand these strategies, because there's so many different creative seller financing strategies. You have subject to, you have an agreement for deed, land contract, sandwich lease option. There's so many different ones, and it really depends on the seller's needs, and that would determine on what strategy I use. Like I said before, I always use the analogy of a tool belt. Depending on what the seller needs, that will determine the tool. For an example, if a seller is not financial distress, there's no way I'm going to pitch a subject to. Hey, Mr. Seller, keep the mortgage in your name and transfer the deed to me. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. And if they have a realtor and you pitch out, they're going to be really looking at you like you're crazy. So you have to do a different type of a seller financing strategy and still control it, still get some of the tax write-offs, you still get the same advantages, but you just have a different strategy to go to take the property down.
Okay. And now, everybody, if you are wanting to learn more about how to get into your seller financing business, how to get your feet running, how can I do that, Mark?
Um, how to get your feet running. I mean, I have a mentorship program, but you want to work with somebody that's been in the business at least 10 years. I see a lot of people out there giving advice on, especially subject to. They're giving advice on subject to, and a lot of it's incorrect and it's very dangerous. Subject to is an advanced strategy for investors, and they're really never designed to do assignments. I know they're doing assignments all day long, but it's very dangerous. And what happens is in 2003 to 2005, people actually got in trouble. People actually went to jail for this. So what they're doing is they were putting these deals into contracts and taking the buyer large down payment and not qualifying and make sure they can afford it, and people were defaulting. They were taking people's 30 to 50, $60,000. But these people were egregious. They were actually doing it on purpose. They kept taking people that knowing they couldn't qualify for making the payments. And after 3 months, they were just taking their 30,000, kicking them out and redoing it over. They kept doing it over. So there was a little bit egregious, but I see a lot of it nowadays. People doing some assignments and subject to deals, and they're not really qualifying the buyer to make sure they can get correctly. And I know a lot of times they're thinking, oh, I'm protected by my contract, I won't get sued. Hey, if that end buyer stops paying, everybody involved is going to get pulled into it. So that's why if you're doing that strategy, you should always stay in the middle because you can control it. So if the end buyer stops paying, you can make sure it keeps getting paid. And oftentimes you'll come out ahead. You get them out, you got the property back. Hopefully that mortgage has been paid down and you get to resell the property back again. But typically, I like to sell my properties on lease options or rent to owns, unless it's not a landlord from the state. Then I kind of use a different type of strategy.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to it as a beginner, or even as someone that's looking to scale,
Yeah.
how can you help them take it to the next level?
Well, most of the people that I work with that come in are usually, yes, I do get some new people, but most of them are people like husband and wives that already have 3 to 6 properties and they put that 25, 30% down and they've run out of capital. So they want to learn how to buy properties with less capital. And that's why I love seller financing because you can get in these properties with very little capital, use your end buyer's capital, make that money up front, and then and you can buy your own. Like for me, I like to buy and seller financing, sell through a lease option on residential homes, and then on multifamily and other things, I like to hold and have a property manager so I can keep building my portfolio. That's my type of strategy, but you can do a lot of these different type of strategies. But it's all negotiable. Again, if you listen, when somebody brings a deal in and we underwrite it, I always want to know 2 things: why are they selling, and what are they planning on doing with that capital? Because if you understand those 2 things, you can be creative enough to be able to do the deal. And, people talk about mindset, being positive. But for me, mindset is perspective, how I look at a deal and how I can get into that deal. That's really what it comes down to. I've done so many deals. I mean, I can't even tell you how many deals I've done with no money down, $100 down, and got into the deal. And when you look at it that way, your ROI is infinity.
Okay. Okay. So if you guys are wanting to get into seller financing or you're looking to, or I mean, it might be your first seller financing deal, you might already have some real estate, whether you're doing the buy and hold method or the burn method, or if you're just buying and just buying the properties and holding them, and you're looking to get into 0% down, 5% down, 10% down, go ahead and schedule a call. I dropped a link inside of the chat here. This is going to see if it's a good fit for you. It's no pressure. It's legit just to see if you qualify to be a part of the program. We want to make sure that we can help you in every aspect possible. You'll be speaking with Tommy or Reese, which I think they're both in here. Reese and Tommy. I think Tommy's in here. Yep, Tommy's still in here. So you'll be speaking to either one of them. Just go ahead. Just click the link, schedule a call. There's no pressures, no pressure selling on that call or anything. It's like 15 minutes, if that, too.
What I recommend, if you're new and you haven't done a seller financing deal yet, and if you don't have a lot of capital, the sandwich lease option is one of the best strategies to start out with. Because what it is, you're doing a rent to own with a seller that allows you to sublet it, and you can get into a property with 1 or 2 months rent. That's typically what I tell them. Hey, I'm going to take care of the maintenance and repairs, so that's why I'm only putting 1 month or 2 months rent down on the property. And you lock into a contract, you negotiate whatever the market rent is, you negotiate the market rent down a little bit, and then go ahead and when you find your tenant buyer, your end buyer, you negotiate it up. So you're trying to cash flow about $500 a month, and then you get a larger down payment from your end buyer. So you're making money on the front end and you have some reserves. And if anything ever happens and anything goes bad, worst case scenario, you can give the property back to the seller because the deed technically is still their name. You can rip up the contract. But that's worst case scenario, but you always want to stay in the deal. You can get literally, you can get into a deal. I've gotten into a deal where, typically what I do is I lock it up for $100. And I tell the seller, hey, you know what? Take your time. This way, you know that you have, take your time. You know you have a buyer ready to go. And when I take possession of the property, I give you the remaining capital at that time. And then what I do is I go out and find my tenant buyer, get their capital, use their capital to give to my buyer, and I'm into that deal and I make money in the front end. It's one of the easier strategy to do. The only downside is you don't get the tax depreciation, you don't get the tax strategy, but you have less risk. That's the only downside of that. So if you have a lot of income, you want to control that title so you get the tax advantages of that.
Okay. Does the contract from the seller to me go via a notary when doing seller financing?
I usually use a closing agent. You always want to make sure you have R's and T's crossed, do title search. You want to make sure you have everything and have a third party go through all the documents so you don't have any issues. You don't want somebody saying like, if it's a little senior lady and you don't want them saying, hey, he took advantage of me. So you want to make sure like everybody's involved, everything is disclosed properly and use a third party. And a title company, and yes, a notary can do that as well. Usually the title company hires a notary.
Okay. Now I have a question for Dennis real quick. I'm going to throw you on the spot. So
I'll try.
you're good. So you've been in the program for how long? Just over a month?
I think we're going on 6 weeks now.
6 weeks?
Yeah,
Okay.
just right after Christmas, I think I
Give me one of the
enrolled.
biggest things that you've taken away from it.
Well, geez, there's so many. Teamwork. Don't be afraid to team up, and I've done that, and there's three of us stretching across the United States already. So there's one. Listen to Mark carefully, and the things that he says in his book, the thing that he says in these meetings. Those little things that you don't think you're missing, like that question I asked here about that seller. And how I handled it. Mark right away knew that I probably I missed something in the presentation. you know, and those little cues. It's the relationship. It's the talking. You know, worry about the details and stuff later, especially if you're brand new.
Awesome.
That's my
Appreciate
opinion.
that. All right, Jasmine, what you got?
Hi. So I just remembered that I did talk to a seller today on the phone, actually, who was doing for sale by owner. So he's kind of the perfect candidate for what you're describing. And he's in a position where he said he's about to just rent the place out for a year because it hasn't sold for what he's asking. I think he bought it for 200K and he's trying to sell it for 350 in Florida and wants to just rent it out for 2000 a month for a year. Nice guy. So what would you do in this situation?
That's gold. That is gold because he's trying to sell and he's going to rent it.
Yeah.
So I negotiated low down payment, like maybe 2 months, and I would whatever the market rent, try to go underneath it and lock it up, or I would try to like even do an agreement for deed or land contract so you actually control the deed, but structure it. You can almost structure it like a lease option too. So there's several different ways. What I would normally do is we have a deal analysis. We go through the sheet, look at the numbers, and do you know what the market rent is?
It is around what he's asking, around
Yep.
2000. Yeah.
Right. So, Mr. Seller, you don't have to pay a property manager. Property manager is going to take a couple $100, and you don't have to take care of the maintenance and repairs. Usually, we'll take care of the maintenance repairs up to like $4,000, 3,500 somewhere in that area. Anything over and above that, most likely the homeowner's insurance is going to kick in because it could be a roof issue or something like that. So you don't have to worry about that. Getting a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning for a leaky toilet or anything like that. I'm taking care of the maintenance and repairs. That's kind of how I tell the seller going through the process. And then, we look at our exit strategy. And so there's a couple different ways of going about it.
But how do you sell them on the no down? I think that's the part that's getting me.
Well, you're giving them 2 months. Say, hey, I'll give you 2 months, first and last. Because the only reason why is because I'm taking care of the maintenance and repairs. You don't have to. Right now, if you rent it, if something goes wrong, you got to take care of those maintenance and repairs.
Okay. And would you pitch when you show him like the amortization schedule, would you do like
You
4%
don't
or
on on that one, you don't, you're not doing seller financing. You're going to try to do like a lease option on it. It's a different type of strategy.
okay.
You know.
So you
So that's
okay.
kind of Yep. So that's kind of how we go through it. And these are the things that we go through every Tuesday at 6:30, like how
Okay.
to present this stuff. And sometimes we'll even while we're live, we jump on a call with the seller and we're presenting the offer directly to the sellers as well.
Oh,
When
very
we have
cool.
stuff like that. Yep. So
What,
but
well, real quick, what's the difference between a lease option and rent to own?
it's the same thing.
It
It's
is. Okay.
it is exactly the same thing, but a lot of people don't know what a lease option is, and you have to kind of, I hate to say it, you have to dumb it down because if
Hmm.
they don't know what it is, they're not going to do it. I've had years ago, I learned this. I was on the phone, I was talking lease option, lease option, lease option. She goes, I don't want to do lease option. She goes, but I would, later on, she goes, well, I would be open to a rent to own. And
Oh,
I didn't want to tell her it's the same thing. I'm like, oh, okay, we could do a rent to own. It is the same thing.
okay. Yeah, I did
There's,
ask him that on the phone today and he said no. So I'm just wondering, like, how would you navigate that
he said, you asked the seller, he said no to what?
if he was open to a rent to own?
Okay. What are you going to do if you can't sell the property?
He was just going to rent it for a year and then try to
There you
sell
go.
it, I guess.
There you go. That's what I say. They're not open to rent to own. Well, you're going to rent it. Well, hey, I'll take care of the property and maintenance and repairs. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about the maintenance. So what's the difference if you're going to rent it versus me renting to own it?
Hmm.
That's why I'm being quiet. What are you going to do if you can't sell the property? And I just shut up. What are you going to do if you can't sell the property? Well, I guess I'm going to rent it. Well, save my phone number. I may be interested. I do a takeaway like a little bit. I may be interested at that time. If I have some capital right now and I want to deploy it into an asset. So you're also thinking that they may lose you as a buyer. So they're like, oh, so it kind of helps them push a little bit. I have some capital that I need to deploy at them right now. So just let me know. Okay.
Okay. And then you'd follow up in a few weeks.
Exactly. It's all about following up. and make sure they have your phone number too.
Okay. And just real quick, in regards to building rapport, which I'm glad that you educated us on that. That hadn't crossed my mind. Like, how would you bake that into this conversation or transaction? If I just spoke with him on the phone today, would you like call him a few times over the first couple of weeks?
I get to know them right off the bat before I even start diving into the deal. I just
Okay.
start talking to them right in the beginning. I just start talking to them like, hey, start thinking of something in the area. Like, hey, how long have you lived in the area? When you start asking about the property, how are the neighbors? Do you get along? Because then you can kind of tell if they're a head person or a heart person. Because if they start talking about the neighbors and holiday parties and everything, then you know they're a heart person. Head person, they're going to go into the numbers, so you can kind of understand the type of person that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a gut person is another one, like, hey, I want that red car. But usually the heart person and the head person. So both of them are good. Head people, um, it's still you want to get to know them because they want to make sure you're going to take care of the property. Heart person, they're going to do it more to you because they feel like you're becoming really good friends and you're going to be treated like a family type of thing. So just start talking like, hey, if you're going to just start talking about the property, do you have animals? Do you guys go hiking? What do you guys like? What do you do for work? How many children you have? Are the children going off to school? Oh, I know that area. I've done some whitewater rafting. Or, if it's a guy, oh, you live near Kansas City. Oh, so you're a big football fan. Start talking a little bit about sports. You like, are you a Taylor Swift fan? Little things like that. It breaks the ice. And then you just start talking to them a little bit and asking, getting to know, just start being yourself. Just think of like when you're on a date with your partner or whatever, you're getting to know each other. That's kind of the concept.
Okay. And then at the end of that long conversation, you start to talk about the deal.
Yeah. 80% of my phone call the first time talking to them is getting to know each other, and 20% is about the deal.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, we're getting to the end of our time. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody? Going once? Going twice?
I enjoyed it.
Going
I'm
three
glad you guys
times?
all came on.
Hey, Mark, just
Yes.
really quick.
The guys just
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Dennis. You're good.
Just really quick, Mark, I had something come across the wire. Are you doing anything in mobile home parks in Illinois?
Yes, as long as it's 70 pads
Okay,
plus.
I'll take a look at it. Thanks.
Cool. All right, guys. Now, awesome, awesome. If you guys haven't booked a call yet, make sure to book a call, and you guys can hop on a call to see if this program's right for you. We want to make sure it's a good fit for you. We're not here just to make sure we just take your money. We're not. Mark's here to actually help you. I think Dennis can attest to that. So
Yeah, I saw Matt jump on it earlier. Um,
Matt Bricker was here.
yeah, Matt's been in the program for a couple of years. He's doing extremely well in his deals.
yeah, he's crushing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just make sure to schedule Tuesdays at 6:30. How do you sign up? That will hop on, schedule a call. Schedule a call with one of the team members, and they can get you started on that. Just go ahead and let me post the link again. There we go.
Yeah, so we do the coaching on Wednesday that 6:30, and
Was it
then
Wednesday?
yep, and then Wednesdays we do a deal analysis as well at 7:30 Wednesday nights, and then Thursdays we do like people do accountability a lot. It's really good networking, and people start team up and talk about doing deals together, and there's even some capital people in there that join and they want to invest their capital in deals as well. So and that's where Dennis has really been having a good time. You started networking and you guys start working together. The key to it is you start really surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals and the mindset. Is that what you find, Dennis?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. And the other thing too that and I caught this from you early on when I first started following you. Hook up with or link up with people that are you get along with, but you're sharing. Some of you are good at one thing, and some of you are good at another thing, and that kind of helps build the team out.
Cool. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, people are like some people might not be good talking to sellers, but they're good at doing the construction side if you need to have some, construction side of things. Or they're good with the financing side of things,
Yeah,
coming up
there's
with the
yeah, there's
details.
people that yeah, like that's a great point, Matt. There's people that have capital and they don't want to be out there looking and turning all the stones over looking for the deals. They'd rather just put their capital to work. So you're right. Yeah, good. And then for me, I love being on the phone. I love talking to people. And then you have people like Elijah. He's a master with Excel and our deal underwriting sheet and stuff like that. So it's good stuff.
Yep.
And the other thing too that I would add in branching out and linking up with people like that and that have different strengths. Yeah, I'm okay as a talker and understand some of the psychology and I'm still learning a lot of it. But that lets me focus on calls. And Elijah, he'll help with he'll do some calls or actually more research and then numbers. And then we have Dominic in Utah, and he helps with property research as well.
And this thing is all psychological. When you're doing seller financing, it's all psychological. Like again, building that rapport, listening to the seller, and how to solve their problems. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
Because once you understand the process and you understand all these strategies, it's all repetition. It's really easy after that. But the art of it is really the psychological of it, is understanding the seller and how to present and say certain things to sellers so they will feel more comfortable with you. So, thanks, Matt.
Yep. Yep. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dennis.
All right, guys. That's it. I'm all done. You done, Mark? You got any more?
I am. I can smell my dinner out there.
Oh, I need to go. I'm grabbing Chipotle tonight, so that's why I'm
Oh,
going to go
nice.
go grab some Chipotle before they
Thank
close.
you,
So,
guys. Looking forward to talking to some of you guys. So
Have a
we'll
good
see you
one.
soon. Have a good
see you
night.
guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.